Roughly a month ago, we redid the hot side of this turbo kit. The reason why, if you remember, when we took this thing down to the Freedom Factory and did our first burnout in it, it did equally as good of a burnout with the turbo as it did without. At some point during the burnout, the intercooler pipe popped off of the intake manifold. The second half of the burnout, which would have been when the coupler was off, it did a really good burnout. We ran a teeny tiny turbo on it, thinking, you know, really small, it'll spool really fast and it'll never fall out of boost. Well, we also didn't run much boost on it, which meant basically the volume that the V8 was sucking in on its own was greater than what the turbo was producing, and trying to sound smart for basically turbo too small and not enough boost. So we have upgraded to a 62mm Pulsar turbo that we got from Brent and Jamie at PFI. The only thing we have left to do on the hot side is at a wastegate. So brand new from Tile, we have their 44mm wastegate. It is V-band on both sides. It's very nice, very excited to put this thing on. So we're gonna make a hole, we're gonna make a little pipe, put the wastegate on it, make some nice little pipe cuts, make it look fantastic. Unfortunately, there's almost no room and there's almost only one spot to put the wastegate, which is right on top, and there's no room to do a nice flowing angle, so we're just going to go straight 90 degrees with it. And because we are still running a low amount of boost on this, it really shouldn't be an issue. But I just wanted to point out, if you have the means to do so, you should try and get the wastegate to flow with the exhaust so it's not fighting it. That'll give you better boost control. As I said, we don't have room, so we're going to see how this works. So my free employee of the month made this little bracket with a bunch of just junk that we had hanging out for the new electric water pump. What I have left to do on this, these are the fittings for the water pump, and they are very small for that pipe. So we need to basically weld that pipe onto that thing so it'll fit, and then that's done. We have to finish welding the flange and the pipe for the wastegate onto the hot side of the turbo kit, and then we need to make a dump tube. Again, there's not a whole lot of room, so we got to kind of get spaghetti with this and make it go under the exhaust and then back up. The turbo has a big V-band on it, and we are actually going to cut that V-band off and then just weld on a normal end to it so we can just run a normal silicone coupler, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do on the other side of the intercooler. This intercooler was on Mina's car. This is what I'd learned how to TIG weld on. It's a twin turbo intercooler that we welded the two cores together to make one. So 40 minutes of TIG welding a bunch of sweet pie cuts and doing a pretty decent job. You can't even see half the welds, but that's looking good. Hopefully, because those are both so short, there will be lots of fire and glowing coming out of here. Cut the V-band off, put this on there. This is Mina's old intercooler that I made. It was a twin turbo intercooler, so there's two cores, and then we just welded them together basically with end tanks. Hey! Day one, TIG welding. And it kind of fits perfectly right there, as you can see. So you need to figure out what on earth we're gonna do for that side. Mina made 860 horsepower on that intercooler, and it didn't leak. So we were trying to make it look less like an elephant trunk coming out of the hood of that thing. There's not a whole lot we can do, you know, trying to keep this away from the exhaust to a certain extent, but nonetheless, that is a much cleaner, much nicer setup. It's got a nice, you guys know I like my swooshes, and that swoosh right there, man, that's just got swoosh written all over it, nice and swoosh-like. So that's looking good, pretty happy with that. Now we need to figure out how on earth we're going to mount it, and then obviously we're putting some decent stuff on the front of here, right? Like, you know, taking our time this round, and it would really be unfortunate if during a burnout that turbo ended up serving as a bumper rather than a turbo. And so after we figure out how that's going to mount, we need to make a bash bar of some kind, unless we mount it to the bash bar, in which case we need to make the bash bar first, but we don't have material to make a bash bar, so I don't really know what we're going to do because today's Saturday and I am on limited time. So let's figure that out, yeah?
In the car.
Hey, that would work.
Some tubing there. There's tubing there. We make tubing out of those crash bars. There's you could lop the tubing off of those, off the end of that if you want. Off the end of those.
Could just use that whole thing.
No, I want the pumpkin.
No, I want the whole thing.
No, I want the pumpkin.
Wait, what do you... I'm talking about the broom.
Oh, yeah, you can take that too.
Oh. Since this is not really involving my safety, that's the only reason why we're about to do what we're about to do. Okay, so take a chill pill and just, you know, if this bothers you, go see a therapist. We are going to join this and this bar together to get the distance that we want. Now, if you just butted those together and welded them, that's pretty worthless. If it has any impact at all, it'll just snap. But you'll see here, I found a piece of tube that this fits inside of. So we will TIG weld these two together, and then we will weld this pipe over the seam, and should be pretty good to go. All right, before we get too crazy, here's what we got, here's what we did. Okay, so welded those two pipes together, sleeved it, really with everything going on. I don't even think that looks that bad. We got this thing all bent up. We got the intercooler mounted. We got this little tab here. And we got the little back brace there going on. So it kind of cradles it in the back, holds it up in the front. What we have left to do up here fab-wise is make a mount for the turbo, basically. This material that we use for this is very, very thin and should not be trusted to hold any amount of weight. I'm actually surprised it hasn't cracked just sitting here holding the weight of the turbo. So we're gonna put all this back on. And then, so for those of you who don't know, oil goes into the turbo, lubricates the inside of that, right? And then these ports here are for coolant. We don't use those on anything. What we're gonna do is thread these into those coolant holes and then use these sleeves here as the mounts. So get all this situated, weld some stuff from here to this brace, and then that way full weight of the turbo is taken by something we make instead of by this really thin metal. When you hard mount a turbo, you absolutely should have a flex joint somewhere. Do as I say, not as I weld. We don't have a flex joint. I'm not adding one, but just so you guys know how to do it better than me, that's how you would do it better than me. Oh, that doesn't have a fancy label that you just made? You have a label maker? Yes. Oil.
You think so?
Yeah, I bet that's the oil cooler fan.
That was my guess.
We could find out.
Nothing's on fire yet.
That's a great start. Okay. Is this hooked up?
Should be.
Is the fan on? It's not on the intercooler.
Oh, it is.
Well done, Jacques.
That's not good.
Is the pump hooked up yet, dude? Because it doesn't look like it.
It is.
It is? Yeah. We could try it right now.
If you want to bring your pump up.
Yes, I do. Which one is that? Rad? Water pump, WP. Heck yeah. Cool, dude.
Seems very powerful.
Once you put your tongue in it, I bet it's real powerful then.
Think so?
It moved quite a bit of water when I tested it in a bucket.
Oh! Yeah.
Yeah. I think the mount you made is just so rigid that it kind of absorbs.
Yes.
Cool.
Is that nice?
Yeah, very nice. Well done. We don't even need Dennis anymore. Dennis doesn't have a label maker. Gasket on, exhaust, finish what I was doing to that. You gotta get a belt and push the power steering pulley In or out, I'm not sure yet. What would you say?
I would say it needs to go in quite a bit.
That's what I was thinking as well. Not only can you wire, but you have excellent eyeballs.
Yes, 2020.
2020. Next on the list are two things I completely forgot about. One, an O2 bung. That's important. Second thing is an X in the exhaust. A lot of burnout competitions and drag racing classes require an X in the exhaust if you have a turbo. It is, in case the turbo goes kaboom boom, it's a safety measure to hopefully slow down or block some of that hot, sharp, fast-moving shrapnel from hitting people or things. Our exhaust is pointing up, so not really worried about hitting people in the face, but if we could slow some momentum down should it go kaboom, that's better. So Max had some extra stainless rod hanging out, so we cut that, pounded it in, welded it shut, boom, I made an X. Next on the list is putting the appropriate size spring in the tile wastegate. Me and Jamie are trying to guess and figure out kind of where we needed to be because the Mini doesn't need to make a ton of horsepower. We're kind of shooting for that 400 range. We're trying to compare what the Jeep made, but the Jeep is on a bigger turbo and it's got a smaller LS, so it's not an exact crossover.
Was it?
422.
5 pounds. 5 pounds. Yep.
Based on that science, me and Jamie agreed we should go with the 5.8 pound spring. There are so many variables in guessing something like this between like the size of my piping, the amount of bends in the piping, the efficiency of flow, and like all this nerd talk that I don't even understand. The altitude we're at, this, that, and the other. But we agreed that's a low enough PSI. We should be at a very safe point. We can always add to it from there, but we shouldn't need to subtract. That's what we're going with. That's what we're rolling with. What you're about to see now is a very important lesson. I'm glad to share it with you. This is why you always tack everything and then test fit it before just fully welding it all and assuming that what you did was perfect. When I test fitted the exhaust and marked it for the O2, I did not have the wastegate dump on the wastegate. And as you can see right about here, the wastegate dump tube is directly in front of where I put the O2 bung. So we need to cut that off, cap that hole. While we're at it, the wastegate dump was also hitting the excess part of the stainless rod that I made the X out of. I wanted to keep them long so it was very obvious to tech that there's an X in the exhaust, but we need to trim those down a little bit. Cap the old hole, add a new bung, boom, we should be back in business. There are a few things left in this world that really get me excited. One of them is fine threaded stainless. Something so beautiful about it really tickles my charge pipe, you know what I mean? Down there. Moving on. Got this thing pressed on there as hard as I can. Absolutely, I didn't mean to use the word hard after what we just talked about, but you know. So this is gonna go right like that, as it were, and then put a little zip tie on the edge of the fan, just kind of hold it in place, tuck it down a little bit. Good to go there. We have fixed, here, please hold. We have fixed what was an issue. These are all tight, so they are sitting how I want them. I think they look all right. In the future, I probably won't do it, but just so you guys know I'm thinking about it. The curve on that is kind of coming this way, and then the dump tube for the wastegate's straight up, so if that's bothering you, I apologize. We have to get a belt for the correct size because if you remember, we added the, we deleted the water pump. So we had to get that ITC billet kit there. And then that paired with the alternator relocation kit that we had previously. I don't know what belt we need. So we got to do that still, push the power steering pulley in so it doesn't throw belts off. Zach got the fan wired up, he got the water pump wired in. So we need to put all that back on, get a belt. Oil line needs extended. Still have quite a bit left to do. On top of all that needs to be accomplished today because dyno's tomorrow. I have to hydro dip these freaking giant pieces. Now those aren't too bad. I've done plenty of things like that. These are kind of starting to push it. Not terrible. But then you come over here and we got these freaking 6-foot heifers. I don't even know what part of the Can-Am or Polaris, what is this, a Polaris? Yeah, Polaris. I don't even know what that is. Are those doors? I can't even, anyways, I gotta hydro dip those today. That's gonna suck. This is only one half of the car. Also, I don't know, do you call those things cars? So we have a lot to do, not a whole lot of time. It's already about 1 o'clock. We got to boogie. In case something catches fire, I get real close. I'll get
where you can see me.
Yeah, for those just tuning in, my phone ran out of memory. This got stuck, and Max peed himself.
Yep. pretty sure it's this piece of metal in here getting stuck on this janky screw situation.
Janky? No way.
Oh, I found it.
We give it a little rev then.
I'd just full send it.
Alright. Ready?
Yep. Yeah, let's see what that does.
I'm assuming the lot probably came over here too.
And almost just put more water into the motor. It looks like.
Is it fuller?
Yeah, it's about the same. Context, ladies and gentlemen, there's a pinhole leak in my weld right there. Touchy the wood, yep, right there. And we can't weld it when there's water there because it gets really angry. Thanks. All right, it's about midnight and I'm out of steam, but I think it's ready to roll. That stuff, so that's going to protect fan, oil line, intercooler pipe, coolant tubes, kind of Chipotle burritoed. Got the Funk Motorsport blanket on the turbo. Started it with the belt, that's good. And then this is not really worth showing you, but cut a washer and drilled a hole, and then that'll keep that throttle cable in there because it wasn't. It was just all loosey-goosey. That did not help contribute to the fact that the throttle cable got stuck. The next video you guys will see is that thing on the dyno, rain or shine, engine blown up or not. We're gonna find out what it'll do. Pretty happy with how it turned out though. I mean, that's marginally better than what we had before. It also took 19 times as long as version 1, but I think it's gonna be a lot better setup. Zach, I already mentioned this, but Zach wired the fan and wired the water pump, which is great. So in the morning, which is kind of irrelevant to you because you're not going to see it, but I got to make sure that tunnel still fits over that for Jamie's safety. Power steering's full. I got to do an oil change. Again, this is all irrelevant to you, but I'm tired and I'm just talking out loud. On that note, thank you guys for watching. See you guys later.